Early morning in mainland Europe. Two white vans are quietly being loaded full of cocaine, hashish and ecstasy. They're being readied to move nearly 4 tons of narcotics. Authorities have been trying for decades to contain the global trade in illicit drugs. The drugs in these vans will be taken to an incinerator and destroyed. It's a journey the Portuguese police make every month, and they know there's no end in sight.
Our job is to try to make it as hard as possible for the drug traffickers to sell their product. But it's not a fight that we can win.
This is the story of how one country sparked a global movement for change. At a Portuguese incineration plant, the drug squad prepares to burn their latest haul. For years, Portugal took a hard-line approach to drugs.
The policy was that all people caught with drugs, regardless of the amount and even if they were for their own personal use, will be legally prosecuted as drug traffickers. They will be brought into court and they may be sentenced to some time in prison. But the hardline approach didn't make a difference regarding people stopping use drugs.
In the 1990s, drug use spread to every part of society in this small European country. 1 in every 100 of the population were believed to be addicted to heroin. Simply incinerating their supply was no answer. The country needed to forge a radical new approach to drugs. In 2001, Portugal came up with a policy that would put its people first. A new law enabled citizens to possess small amounts of any illegal drug. It would no longer be a criminal offence for mostly casual users to enjoy their vice of choice. State resources could be focused on addicts. Instead of being punished for their dependency, they'd be offered help.
All this area was people using, and
now they are more concentrated on this field here.
Yes, yeah, it was an old factory, and they are using that.
Psychologists Maria and Rachel are state-funded outreach workers. Every day they visit drug users to offer clean needles, smoking pipes and advice. They call this approach harm reduction.
Yeah. We respect their space, you know? Yeah. We are not like, come on, get to treatment, you have to stop. It's not what we say, you know?
In their time, if they want, we help them to go to treatment.
Decriminalisation has removed much of the stigma addicts felt and the fear of prosecution that stopped them from seeking help.
Agora fumo muito heroína.
It's easy to them to get to us and say, okay, I have a drug problem and I need help. They don't have to lie to us. It's like, okay, I'm using and I'm not afraid to get in jail or something like that. And I think this is a big difference, you know.
90% of Portugal's anti-drugs resources are now spent on treatment and prevention, 10% on policing and punishment. In the United States, it's the opposite.
certas pessoas já mudaram, porque já aceitam a toxicodependência como uma doença. Antigamente o toxicodependente era generalizado, um bandido, porque consoante o tempo vai passando, as pessoas viram que o toxicodependente por vezes é inteligente, é bastante inteligente e que não é a droga que tira a pessoa, que deixa de fazer que a pessoa não seja aquela pessoa.
Since decriminalisation, drug-induced deaths have dropped from 80 in 2001 to just 16 in 2012. Over the same period, the total number of heroin addicts halved. Portugal's experiment defied the fears of opponents and broke a global policy taboo. But for all its success, the new approach did nothing to address the supply side of the drugs trade. Though citizens weren't now being arrested for possessing drugs, the police were still chasing their dealers. Globally, criminal gangs and drugs cartels continued to dominate a drugs trade worth over $300 billion. The countries where those drugs originated continued to pay the price they'd been paying for over a quarter of a century.
In the Colombian capital, Bogotá, the polls opened with a minute's silence for the three candidates killed during the presidential campaign. It was the culmination of weeks of terror. The man expected to win is the Liberal Party's César Gaviria. He arrived surrounded by bodyguards and a media posse. He's pledged to continue the present administration's hard line against the drug cartels.
The cartels in Colombia by 1990 became almost all-powerful. Escobar was able to do terrorism in a way that only probably Bin Laden has been able. Blowing up buildings and bringing down planes and killing policemen one by one. It was really a threat to Colombian democracy. They were scary times.
When he won the election, Gaviria vowed to take on the cartels in his own way.
You have to fight cartels, you have to militarize the whole thing to show that these people could go to jail. At that moment, we had to do it.
Gaviria oversaw the dismantling of Colombia's drugs cartels and the killing of their most infamous leader, Pablo Escobar. But after 4 years in office, he seemed to have made little lasting impact.
Whereas once they grew coca plants for cocaine production, now it's poppy seeds. 1 kilo of heroin sells in New York for $160,000, 10 times the price of cocaine.
The war on drugs really failed. And at the end, what you see is no matter what you do, the drugs gets to the U.S. The life of Colombia has been really, really difficult. We have suffered so much violence. You have to look for a way out. You have to look for a solution. We know that just repression, just prohibitionism doesn't work. We know it for certain. We have lived that.
The drug-producing countries of Latin America are following the lead of Portugal in demanding change.